Namaskar. Welcome to new session. We have commenced to understand Patanjali's treatise, Patanjali's Yoga Darshana. And I commenced by telling you that there are certain pillars and certain columns on which Darshana Shastra is structured. We have convention to formulate a philosophical system which must consider or which must be structured on certain columns. It must consider certain aspects. So I told you about those aspects such as epistemology, psychology, and in metaphysics, cosmology, ontology, teleology. And then some practices have to be mentioned. How the knowledge process should go after a particular extent, beyond empirical process, beyond cerebral process. There is a lot of knowledge beyond cerebral process and empirical temporal process. So, therefore, certain practices are mentioned for realization of the truth. The truth is not realized by cerebral process and empirical process after an extent. An ultimate reality is never ever experienced or conceived by a cerebral process or empirical and temporal process. So that is called ethico-religious system. There must be ethico-religious system to realize the realities. The philosophy will merely postulate realities, but then they have to be realized. They are not to be just believed in. Like many of the religions have this aspect that it must be just believed, there must be faith, and there should be no interpretation of the scriptures. Nobody should dare interpret the scriptures. Nobody should inquire, investigate, or scrutinize the scriptures. It must be just believed. Whereas we had the philosophical system which postulated realities, but also it was annexed with certain practices by which realities could be revealed, realized. That is ethico-religious system. Then this huge vast creation is not certainly man-made. We might be, in a generation, might be doing so many things for the first time. We are creative people. We construct so many things. We invent so many things. But then, this vast universe, the nature, who created this? There must be a creator. So, that creator must be identified and must be explored. So there comes what is called as theology. You and me and mortals cannot create stars and planets and galaxies and the universe. We can at the most create some cars and airplanes and some machines and some houses. We can build houses. We know what the man can be structuring on the planet. But then, the vast universe cannot be a construction of a mortal. So who created? And therefore, that inquiry comes in about the creator, about the sustainer of the creator, or one who is managing the creation, because this is a cosmos, not a chaos. This is a universe, not a diverse. It is universe, not a multiverse. So it is being organized. It's not just being created, it is being organized. The construction and destruction is constant process in the universe. Birth of stars and death of stars, the supernovas, the all these processes, the creation and destruction is a continuous process going on in the universe. So who is doing this? Who is managing the creation, maintenance and destruction? It's certainly not a mortal. So that is called theology, inquiry into it. So that's also one of the branches. Theology. Then there is the whole universe is full of mysteries. And the mysteries are to be unraveled by not just cerebral process and empirical process and temporal process. So the man must realize these mysteries, because unless the mysteries are realized, you will not realize the realities. So there is a huge ocean of mysteries to realize the realities. And therefore, these mysteries are to be revealed within. You can't be going out with microscopes and telescopes and Hubble telescopes and radio telescopes to explore the mysteries. Yes, some of the mysteries will be realized, demystification will be there, but there is still enormous mystery which will not be realized by cerebral, temporal, empirical processes. The man is endowed with what is called as intuitive mysticism. And therefore, about that, there must be some mention. What comes in the realm of intuitive mysticism? What can be realized by intuitive mysticism? So these are the columns in Indian philosophical system for any philosophy to be delineating on this. Anyway, so these are the columns, and then there is a structure over the columns or with the columns. Now, in epistemology, it's not that we must just gain the knowledge. That's how in the modern world we just want to gain knowledge. We want to gain from information to knowledge. But epistemology has to deal with very process of getting knowledge. What is the process of getting knowledge must be investigated. Knowables have to be identified. What is really the knowable? Then, how is the knowing? What is the knowing? What is the knowing process? The process of knowledge. So, any defects in process of knowledge must be weeded out. Otherwise, if we don't bother about process of knowledge, then it could be a faulty process. So, knowledge process, knowing, has to be investigated. Then who knows all these things? We want to know, but we really don't really investigate into who is really the knower. So, the knower entity, the knowable entity, or which is called as known entity, the knowing instrumentations, and the very knowledge, gnosis. So knowledge, knowables, knowing, knower. These are investigated in a science called epistemology. Modern man is just busy collecting knowledge. He doesn't really bother about all these things. So these are four aspects: prama, prameya, pramana, pramatru, in the logical system of Indian thought process. So the science which deals with all these four, their interrelations, is called epistemology. Because we know that our knowledge is valid or sometimes invalid. So just we cannot depend upon knowledge that we get, because many times it is proved that it was invalid knowledge or it was illusion. So we can't just depend upon the knowledge that comes in our psyche. The knowledge needs to be investigated and must be under scrutiny. And we must try to separate invalid aspects from our knowledge, weed it out and see that we have valid knowledge. And therefore, this is the knowing, because the knowing can be faulty or faultless. It is possible. Many times the knowing is faulty or faultless. Knowledge is faulty or faultless. Both are possible. So known can be wrongly identified, wrongly known. And therefore, all investigations about known, knowable, knower, knowing and knowledge must be considered important. So that is what the epistemology does. Which is really the realm of knowledge. What should we be really knowing? Because we do not want to know many things. We understand in our practical life that we don't want to know something. Something should not be known. That's why, with respect to children, we say they take certain care that the children should not know something. So there is something should not be known in a particular stage of life, or sometimes we should not be knowing it. If you know everything, don't think it is a bounty. We can have problems. So known is investigated. What is really known? There is something unknowable known and knowable known. So the known entity is also under scrutiny. What really we should be knowing, and what is it that we should not be knowing? What is knowledge? What is that knowledge we should have, and what is that knowledge we should not have? So that is good for our life also. If you start reading every person inside out, then it will be very difficult for you to move in the world. Like we say, don't peep into my personal life. That means what? That means your personal life should not be known to someone else and other people. You must have your privacy. You must have that secrecy, right to secrecy and privacy should be there. So there are so many things that everything is not that we should be knowing it. The world will be in utter chaos and enormous conflicts. So about the knowledge, about the known, we must distinguish. About the knowing, faulty knowing, faultless knowing, whether the knower is in right state to know or the knower is not in a right state to know. Now when you are fast asleep, you do not want to know so many things. But somebody makes you know everything while you are fast asleep, wakes you up and makes you aware. You are disturbed. So in what state the knower should know? When the subjective entity is fast asleep, you really don't want to know anything. You don't want the knower to be knower. So about knower also needs to be investigated, and philosophical system does this. The Oriental epistemology does this, not the global epistemology, because this subject is there out in the world as well. Both Oriental world and Occidental world both have this epistemology as a subject. But the Oriental epistemology, this is how the investigations are. Anyway, that is a science and subject which deals with the knowledge and knowledge process, the knower and knowables. So one which deals with the knowable, knowing, knower and knowledge. which scrutinizes, which investigates, scrutinizes, and sets right. That is epistemology. So understand how important it is. The column is so important. This branch is so important. Because the philosophy wants to give you essential knowledge, right knowledge, faultless knowledge, ultimate knowledge. And therefore the branch of epistemology is there. So primarily it deals with means of knowledge. And in means of knowledge, in Oriental process, the knower is also considered. The knower must be qualified, knower must be empowered to be knowing something. We are not empowered to know everything. We are not qualified to be knower of everything. We are not empowered, or we are not qualified to be knower of everything. So we'll have to evolve our qualifications, empowerments. So the knower, what is the knower entity? How is the knower entity? How the knower entity can be? Which is the qualified knower entity? Which is disqualified knower entity? Which is empowered knower entity? Which is disempowered or unempowered knower entity? About the known, again discrimination. When and what and how and where should we know something? And where and when and how we should not be knowing something. That is also dealt with in the Oriental epistemology. Knowledge process, faultless, valid on one hand, and then faulty, invalid on the other side. So it investigates all this knowledge process, the known entity, the knower entity, the knowing process, and the knowledge. Knowledge should be tested. So that is epistemology. So see how important it is, and how Indian philosophical systems are encouraging, developing, contributing for human intelligence to become more and more sharper and sharper and sharper. You will never come across a darshanik, a student of philosophy dull. You will always see that a student of philosophy is very, very, very sharp. Because the philosophy deals with very epistemology. Like you say, it is very difficult to argue with a lawyer. So we know that some exaltation in the wisdom of the lawyer. Similarly, there is wisdom in a seeker of philosophy. The intelligence is purified, sharpened, chiseled, faceted, etc., etc. So that is epistemology. Now, where is the knowledge going to come? It is going to come to human mind. Human mind stuff, precisely. Not mind, but mind stuff. That consciousness. So there must be investigation into this, which is having the instruments of knowledge and which is having the knowership, which knows, which gets the knowledge. It is because of the consciousness that we get knowledge. It is because of the mind stuff we get the knowledge. It is because of the instrumentation given to the mind stuff because of which we know we have the knowledge. Like we say, cognitive organs. So we have external cognitive organs. They have their internal mind organ, which is mind, intelligence, emotions, sentiments, memory. So without all these things, how will you have the constitution of knowledge or knowledge raised up? So there are some instruments given. The thought process is an instrument of the mind stuff. The thought process is an instrument of intelligence. If this instrument is taken away from intelligence, it is no longer intelligence. Sensitivity is an instrument given for the mind stuff to have knowledge. And therefore, there is a branch developed about Who gets the knowledge within us? How does the knower get the knowledge? Unless there is a team of instruments or band of instruments provided, how will the knower know the known? Knower entity is there, but somebody is blind, somebody is deaf and dumb, numb, benumbed. Yes, the consciousness is there. But then if somebody is deprived of all five sensations, you will know, you can imagine how much the knowledge realm will be shrunk. So the instruments are provided. So the knower is investigated. And that is the process or pursuit towards one's self. Because it is the self which is given all these instruments. I vaguely remember a statement which comes in Brihadaranya Upanishad. Eshaya atma drashta sprashta ghrata manta bodha vijnanatma purushaha. Drashta, the seer. Sprashta, the toucher. Ghrata, the smeller. Manta, the minder. Bodha, the intellector. Vijnanatma purushaha. So he is actually the locus for somebody to be knower, somebody to be smeller within ourselves. How are we knower, smeller, toucher, thinkers, minders? Without that entity, we will not be doing it. We will not be in a condition to do all those cognitive acts. Therefore, that is investigated. Who is the one really knows within us? The mind doesn't really know. Mind is instrument to know. Intelligence is not the one who knows. Intelligence is an instrument to know. So the knower has to be searched. That is in one way the self-search. If there is no self, then all these things will not be there. So self-search, with which all the spiritual seekers are familiar with. Self-search. So that is self-searching when it comes to objectifying the very knower, investigating the very knower, deciding the very knower, identifying the very knower. Prama, true, in our Nyaya Shastra. So, therefore, there is a branch which we end up calling psychology, which is actually consciousnessology or mentology or psychology. The psyche, because of the psyche we know it. But then because we are familiar with the subject called psychology in modern world, in modern academics, we have ended calling it psychology. Actually, it is psychology, consciousnessology. So it objectifies the very consciousness and tries to define it, describe it, articulate it, crystallize it. So therefore, that's another branch which comes, because unless you have a proper state of mind, your knowledge won't be proper. If the mind is in a disturbed state, your gnosis, knowledge, will be having indentations. So in order that the knowledge is not having indentations, the mind must be in a ideal condition, settled condition, proper condition, steady condition, settled condition, rather than the mind itself dented. If the mind is dented, perceptions are going to be dented. So how the mind should be? So we need to take care of the mind to have proper knowledge. Vexed and troubled mind Malaized mind will not have proper knowledge, and therefore this branch is important as to what the mind is, what spoils the mind, what purifies the mind, what steadies the mind, what disturbs the mind, what distorts the mind, contorts the mind, and which puts the mind right. Because the mind must be put right for proper knowledge. We in the modern world, we don't bother about that. We just want to get knowledge. We want to receive knowledge. We don't bother about our state of mind. But then that is not going to be giving us proper knowledge, valid knowledge, correct knowledge, right knowledge. Therefore, this branch, which deals with the whole mind stuff, the whole consciousness, is an important branch in Indian philosophical system. That's why psychology. Then all this, we ourselves, from where have we come? It is naive to say that we have come from our parents. From where the human being has come? From where the universe has come, and we are part of very creation. We are part of creation. We have, from where otherwise have we come? So we are part of creation. So from where have we come is also important inquiry in philosophical system. From where have we come? Why are we here? Where are we going? And therefore, the whole creation has to be understood. Therefore, that metaphysical subject of cosmology is there. Because we are part of creation. Just as the sun and moon were created, the planets and solar system were created. They came out of a nebula. The sun was created, moon was created, planets were created, satellites were created, stars are created. So as much as the celestial bodies in the heavens are created, it is said that the nebula gives birth to many, 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 many stars. And then we are also part of this creation. So that is cosmology. Therefore, cosmology should be understood so that we will be able to arrive at a condition or state from where we have come up. We have sprung. So all this living, non-living creation is part of cosmological unfoldment. So cosmology, as branch of metaphysics, has to be dealt with. Then essential nature of all the things which are here on our planet and here in our universe. What is the first cause of everything? Because we see that there is always, we see the effects, and therefore we try to identify the cause of effect. Being scientific or being rational or being intelligent, we try to find a cause of some effect. So then we understand that there is a cause behind an effect. So we say this is the effect and this is the cause. Then that the cause has a cause. The cause of the cause has a cause. Cause of the cause of the cause has a cause. Cause of the cause of the cause of the cause of the cause has a cause. How far will it extend? Ad infinitum? No. There will be something which is called as primordial cause. The first cause. The cause which has no cause. The cause which is eternal. The cause which doesn't need any causation. That's the primordial cause. That is the first cause. So from the first cause comes the first effect. From the first effect comes the second effect, then third effect and fourth effect and fifth effect. And ultimately it ends at this manifest world. Because this is creation. This is effect. Then what is the original state of creation in the seed form? How is the creation? Or prior to seed form, how was the creation? That's the first cause. And about the life, what is the what is it, the entity of it? So living principle is eternal, living principle is birthless, and the transforming matter has a primordial cause. So that is called ontology. That means essential state or the primary state of anything, or essential state of living, non-living world. So non-living world essential state is sattva, rajatama gunas, or what we call as paramanus these days, proton, neutron, electron. So whatever is that first cause which doesn't have a cause, which doesn't have a cause prior to it or delivering it. Similarly, the living principle, Purusha, the self, the Atma, which doesn't have any cause. So that is ontology. Essential state of anything and everything and ourselves. That is ontology. Then purpose of this creation. Does the God create all this for his own sports, for his own recreation? Why the God has created all this? What is the purpose? What is the purpose of anything? What is the purpose of any effect? What is the purpose of any cause? And what is the purpose of any cause or the 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 cause? And every stage, the purpose. What is the purpose of everything? That is teleology. Nothing is purposeless in this universe, is what is postulation of philosophies. Nothing is waste. Nothing is superfluous. Everything has a purpose. What is that purpose? Like, even in investigation, if somebody has done something, we don't just end at whether it is right or wrong. In jurisprudence, they try to go for the purpose. Why someone has done something. And the punishment considers that very important. Why someone has done something. The degree of crime is decided because of the purpose. So it is so important to arrive at the purpose of why someone has done something. So therefore this purpose aspect is so important. That's teleology. So these are all metaphysical subject matters, the three. So the ontology will tell about ultimate status of anything, living, non-living, and even the creator will come in there. Creator also has to is investigated. And that's how the theology gets the birth. Trying to investigate very creator. What is the mind of the creator? Archetypal mind, archetypal scheme. Because to identify the purpose of creator, this investigation is important in philosophy, and therefore the theology comes up quite naturally. So there is theology. Now, the first cause of the creative cause, what is called Prakruti, is a metaphysical principle. So it is realized that there is something beyond physics. That is called metaphysics. So The self is a metaphysical entity. The matter in its primordial stages and earlier stages is also metaphysical, which is not object of senses. Then it becomes metaphysical. So, the subject of metaphysics deals with very self, indestructible, immutable, eternal, deathless, birthless, diseaseless, stateless, transformationless, immutable, indestructible. That is entity of the self. Then Prakruti's nominal phases are there. Apart from the phenomenal material world, we see that there is something behind the phenomenal which is called noumenal. Then that becomes metaphysical. Like naked eyes cannot see the whole visible universe. We need to have microscopes. We need to have electron microscopes. We need to have telescopes. We need to have radio telescopes. We need to have Hubble telescopes. Then only the visible will become visible. For the naked eyes, there are so many visible things are invisible. They are not essentially invisible. They are visible because of the limitation of the naked eyes. So, now we have understood that how much world has become visible because of the assistance given to eyes. Microscopes, electron microscopes, telescopes, radio telescopes, Hubble telescopes. We know how the assisting factors are gloriously contributing. Similarly, our naked consciousness will not be able to know everything. There is enormous mysteries which are beyond telescopes and Hubble telescopes and microscopes and electron microscopes and naked intelligence, naked psyche, naked consciousness. And there is a lot of mysticism. It will not be unraveled by mechanical insights, howsoever the technology might evolve. There is something in the realm of metaphysics. It will never come in the purview of these microscopes to telescopes. We'll have to have another channel to have revelations, and that is intuitive mysticism. Intuitive. Like intuition. For intuition, you don't have to sight something. For intuition, you don't have to have direct perception or cognition of something. You don't have to have even inference of something. You don't have to have any testimonial cognition for it. You say it is intuition. This is a faculty given to mankind. And this intuitive faculty is evolved by ethico-religious practices, which is one of the branches that helps you develop that intuitive organ to work more functionally and more exalted in an exalted way. That is why the ethico-religious system comes. Many things the impure mind cannot see, but the pure mind can see. This is what the poets have said. The impure mind cannot see, but the pure mind can see. The biased eyes won't see. Unbiased eyes will see. Polarized mind will not know. Neutral mind will know. So with the neutral mind developed, we have further process of evolvement, which is intuitive mysticism, for which ethico-religious system comes handy. Without adhering to ethico-religious system, we will not be able to have that intuitive mysticism. So the ethico-religious system of Patanjali is the Ashtanga Yoga. Because Ashtanga Yoga only leads you into Samadhi. Samadhi gives you revelations. Samadhi is intuitive revelatory process. And then it will help you reveal so many things which are in the realm of utter mysticism. The self, the Mula Prakruti, the Pradhana, the primordial Prakruti. So these are all Samadhi objects. You will not know them in cerebral processes. You will have to have a transcendent process. That is Samadhi process. So Ashtanga Yoga is ethico-religious practices given by Patanjali. And the intuitive mysticism is in Samadhi matters. Samprajñat Samadhi, Asamprajñat Samadhi, Vitarkanugata Samadhi, Vicharanugata Samadhi, Anandanugata Samadhi, Asmitanugata Samadhi, Dharmavega Samadhi, Nirbija Samadhi, Sabija Samadhi, Nirbija Samadhi. So many Samadhis are mentioned, which are progressive Samadhis. And that is the intuitive mysticism. You know that the intuitive powers are developed by Samadhi. The topic of samyama in 3rd chapter, it speaks about those supernormal faculties of yogi who develop so many faculties which are supernormal. They are not supernatural, they are supernormal. They are superhuman. Or what is postulated as supra-consciousness by one of the great yogis of almost our times, 19th century, Sri Aurobindo. So that supra-consciousness means you are given the scope for intuitive mysticism. So these are the branches, these are all coming in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. And see what and how far we have, how much we have trivialized yoga today. Fitness program, keep fit, keep well, keep fine, and carry out the nonsense of life for a longer extended period of time. Because by yoga you will get life, and that life will give you longevity, you will live long, and then live long and do more and more nonsense of the life. That's how we are made the yoga as a consumeristic subject. And see what Patanjali's text has. So, I just mentioned about the columns on which Patanjali's system is structured. So, we'll have to now look into Patanjali's system, Patanjali's philosophy, which is in Yoga Sutras and in Yoga Darshana. So this is what the Darshana is. So see how much Patanjali's text is Darshana Shastra. Let's try to understand how much it is Darshana Shastra. Let's identify all these subjects which have come up in structuring of his Yoga Sutra and Yoga Darshanam. Rather than what modern world has done is to trivialize yoga for fitness and to be a better and a longer, stronger, materialistic person. Because the more you get strength, health and strength and power, the more you will become materialistic. Patanjali doesn't allow that. And therefore, it is darshana. Darshana will not make you go haywire that way. Anyway, so we are just commencing to understand Patanjali's system. So this is about structuring of Patanjali's system as a Darshana Shastra. So I told you about conventions, the columns and the structuring. Now let's try to understand the structure with greater details. So we will have a couple of sessions on understanding Patanjali's yoga. Then you will be able to understand what yoga is being catered to you. So this education will contribute for you to have an awareness about classical, essential, quintessential yoga. This is so important because yoga has opened out in global market. And if we are not having any basis for discrimination, then it will be a travesty. Therefore, this endeavor. So enough for the day. Thank you very much. Namaskar, all of you.